At my ceremony, my mother interrupted the vows and said, this was supposed to be my moment. When I told her to sit down, she screamed, but when the officiant pulled out a document with her name on it, she fell completely silent. This happened last spring in Charleston, South Carolina. It still feels like a fever dream sometimes, but I promise every part of it is true. My family and friends still bring it up like some sort of legend. I've gone back and forth about posting this, but people need to hear it. My mom, Diane, has always been dramatic. That's the nicest word for it. She doesn't talk, she performs. If she's not the center of attention, she'll twist the scene until she is. For years, I made excuses for her. Growing up, I thought all moms were like that. I didn't know it was weird to have your mom wear a white dress to your graduation or demand to give a toast at your birthday party when you turned 15. She turned everything into a spotlight for herself. When I got engaged to Sarah, my fiancé, now wife, I knew we were going to have issues. Sarah is chill. She hates drama, but she doesn't back down. She'd heard the stories. She had a few of her own, like when my mom tried to plan her bridal shower without inviting Sarah. Just invited her own friends, like it was a tea party in 1993. We shut that down quick. We agreed early on we wanted a small ceremony. Historic church, just immediate family and close friends, a quiet garden reception afterward. Diane didn't like that. She wanted it at the country club she's obsessed with, one of those pretentious places that still acts like it's 1955. She said the guest list was too short, that we were robbing her of the moment she's waited for her whole life. Her words, not mine. We stood firm. We paid for our own wedding, even though she kept offering money as a way to get leverage. We didn't take a dime. There were signs leading up to the ceremony. She was sick the day of the rehearsal dinner and made sure everyone knew it. At brunch the next morning, she wore a floor-length sequin gown. At brunch, everyone was like, what? Then came the ceremony. It was a sunny afternoon, warm but not too hot. The church was packed. Sarah looked perfect. She walked down the aisle with this calm, steady expression like she knew exactly who she was and why she was there. I couldn't stop smiling. I felt locked into the moment, just her and me. Then, just as we were about to start our vows, literally as I opened my mouth, my mom stood up. Loudly. She was wearing this ridiculous champagne-colored dress with feathers. She stood in the second pew like she'd just remembered something urgent. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear, this was supposed to be my moment. At first, I thought maybe she'd said it under her breath. Like maybe it was just for herself. But no, she said it again, louder. This was supposed to be my moment. Everyone turned around. Guests looked confused. Some uncomfortable. I saw Sarah's mom grab her purse like she was about to throw it at her. I didn't say anything right away. I think I just blinked. Sarah was frozen next to me. The officiant, Reverend Walker, a solid guy we met during premarital counseling, gave me this look like, do you want me to handle this? I looked straight at my mom and said, sit down. She didn't move. Her lips twisted like she was about to cry, but no tears came. She shook her head and said, no. I can't. I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend this isn't about me. That's when people started murmuring. You could feel the tension like static. My aunt, her sister, whispered her name sharply, Diane. Stop. But she wouldn't. She pointed at Sarah and said, you've changed him. He's not the same. He used to call me every day. He used to care. Now, I don't even know who he is. I said it again. Firmer this time. Sit down. She shook her head and crossed her arms like a child. I won't sit down and watch you walk away from me. At that point, Reverend Walker did something I didn't expect. He reached into his binder and pulled out a piece of paper. He turned toward her and said, Diane, by request of the groom, and on the advice of legal counsel, I've been authorized to present this. He held it up. A printed document. Notarized. It's a no-contact order, he said, calmly. Filed last week. Effective today. I swear the whole room stopped breathing. Even Sarah's nephew, who's 6 and had been bouncing in his seat the entire time, was dead still. My mom's face went white. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Nothing came out. She stood there for another full 30 seconds, swaying slightly. Then someone touched her armed security, who we'd hired in secret just in case something like this happened. They didn't grab her, just lightly guided her toward the exit. She went quietly. The room didn't move until the door clicked shut behind her. Even then, it took a minute before people remembered they were at a wedding. We resumed the vows. Sarah's hands were shaking in mine. I whispered, "You okay?" and she nodded. Later, we found out Diane had planned a surprise speech at the reception. She brought her own microphone. She also invited 5 of her friends who weren't even on the guest list. Security turned them away at the entrance. After the wedding, we got messages. Some were from family members telling me I should have shown compassion. Others were like, "It's about time you stood up to her." A few said I ruined her reputation. But here's the thing. I don't regret it. This wasn't the first time she'd pulled something like this. It was just the first time she didn't get away with it. A week after the wedding, I got a letter in the mail. Not a text, not an email, an actual letter, with my name written in cursive on the front like it was 1987. It smelled like her perfume, that overly sweet stuff she douses herself in for formal occasions. It made my stomach turn just holding it. Sarah told me not to open it. Said it was probably a trap. But I was curious. Maybe it was an apology. Maybe she realized what she did and felt ashamed. It wasn't. The letter was 6 pages long. 6 pages. Typed. With bullet points. The title at the top, "My Truth, Why I Deserve to Be Heard." She listed every sacrifice she ever made for me. How she gave up her dream of being an actress when she had me. She never once mentioned this growing up. How she raised me alone after Dad died. He didn't die. He moved to Arizona to get away from her and still sends me birthday cards. How she coordinated my entire childhood while dealing with undiagnosed emotional fatigue. I think she meant depression, but she refuses therapy. She said Sarah had brainwashed me. She said the wedding was a public betrayal. She accused my in-laws of financial manipulation, whatever that means. Then at the end, she wrote, "You will regret cutting me out. The world always finds a way to balance itself." That line stuck with me. Then strange things started happening. First, our wedding photographer messaged Sarah and said someone had tried to buy the raw photos. Not the album, everything. When he refused, the buyer offered double. When he asked for a name, they hung up. We didn't need 3 guesses to figure out who it was. Then Sarah's dress, which we'd sent to a cleaner, got lost. Gone. No record. The manager offered us a full refund and said the clerk who handled it quit the same day. Again, not proof, but it didn't feel like coincidence. And then came the bomb. We applied for a mortgage a month after the wedding. The lender pulled my credit and said there was a recent inquiry flagged for a $20,000 jewelry store line. I didn't apply for any credit. I asked to see the application. It had my name, my birthday, my mother's address. The handwriting was mine, because she'd copied old documents of mine. Signatures. Social. Everything. That's when I stopped calling it drama and started calling it what it was, harassment. Identity theft. Fraud. I filed a police report. They said it would take time, but since the application wasn't approved, they couldn't do much unless she did it again. So, I got a lawyer. Same one who helped me with the no-contact order before the wedding. He said we had a strong case for a restraining order with criminal penalties this time. Before we could file it, something even worse happened. Sarah got a call from her boss. Apparently, someone had sent an anonymous email to HR with fake screenshots showing inappropriate messages between her and a coworker. Totally fabricated. Photoshopped. It didn't work, HR knew it was fake immediately, but it still freaked us out. Sarah cried in our kitchen, holding her head like she couldn't believe any of this was real. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, watching the woman I love unravel because of the woman who raised me. I called my mom. Blocked number, of course. Left a voicemail. I didn't yell. I didn't swear. I just said, if you try one more thing, I will bury you legally. I'm not a scared little boy anymore. I'm a husband now. And I will protect my wife. She never responded. But 2 days later, my old high school friend Marcus texted me, "Dude, your mom showed up at my mom's church group. Said she was collecting statements from people who think Sarah is abusive." I laughed. For real. I actually laughed. It was so pathetic. But Sarah didn't laugh. She was done. She looked me in the eye and said, "You need to stop her. Or I will." That night, I looked through every message, voicemail, old letter, weird incident, everything. I printed it all. Built a folder. 50 pages thick. Took it to my lawyer. He flipped through it, nodded, and said one sentence. She's about to learn what it feels like to lose everything she can't control. We scheduled the court date. She still doesn't know. At least, not yet. 2 days before the court date, we got a letter from the county clerk's office. Certified mail. It wasn't about our case. It was a counter-filing. My mother had filed for guardianship over me. Not temporary custody, guardianship. The letter said she was claiming I was mentally unfit to manage my own legal affairs due to emotional coercion and psychological abuse by a third party, i.e., Sarah. She was arguing that I had been alienated and subjected to cult-like control and was requesting emergency review. I sat there staring at the letter. I read it 6 times. I couldn't believe the words on the page, but it was all real. She even had an affidavit from her friend, some retired school nurse who swore I had a history of mental instability in adolescence. I once had mild panic attacks at 16. Apparently, she kept records of that. Sarah was speechless. I could feel her heartbeat through the couch cushions. My lawyer? He smiled. Okay, he said. Now we bury her. He fast-tracked everything. We gathered every witness we could think of, college professors, old coworkers, Sarah's boss, even our premarital counselor. All of them agreed to testify that I was not only mentally sound, but that Diane had been consistently manipulative and obsessive. But the wildest twist came from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, my dad. He'd been living in Arizona, keeping his distance from the chaos. But when he heard what Diane was doing through my cousin, apparently, he called me out of nowhere. "Son," he said, "I've got something you might want." He flew to Charleston the next day. We met him at a diner. He looked older, quieter than I remembered, but still had that same tired look in his eyes. He slid a small black case across the table. Inside were 3 cassette tapes. "I used to record our conversations back when we were going through the divorce," he said. "For legal protection. I never used them. But they might help you now." I had them digitized that night. I won't share every detail, but on one of those tapes, Diane said the words, "If I can't control him, then I'll make him dependent on me." It's not abuse, it's strategy. Her voice, her words, her plan. We played it in court. She didn't show up. Her lawyer did. A young woman who looked about one breath away from quitting. She asked the judge for a continuance. He denied it. The guardianship request was dismissed with prejudice. Our restraining order was approved indefinitely. But this part gets weird. That same night, we got a call from the pastor of her church. He left a message saying he was sorry for what we were going through. That Diane had been removed from all leadership positions and that they were doing internal reviews of claims she had used the church's charity fund to pay for a grievance investigator. We looked it up. It's a real thing. Basically a private investigator for custody disputes. She used church money to hire someone to spy on us. Turns out she'd told the church I was being abused. That Sarah was dangerous. That I'd gone missing. She even said Sarah had brainwashed me with yoga. Yoga. The church bought it for a while. Until she slipped up and sent an email to the entire church board with a fake photo of Sarah at a bar with another man, clearly photoshopped. Like, the guy didn't even have a shadow. They saw it, called her out, and she flipped out in the meeting. Screamed. Called them corrupted by feminism. That was the end of her church chapter. We haven't heard from her directly since. But I found out she's trying to sue the church for religious discrimination. No lawyer has taken her case yet. She's running out of bridges to burn. I still get updates from mutuals. Apparently she started attending a new support group for adult children betrayal. She gives speeches there. Cries a lot. Tells people her son is a victim of marriage poisoning. What she doesn't know is this: we're recording everything now. Every time she violates the order. Every fake profile. Every backdoor attempt through mutual friends. We're building something again. And this time, it won't be a folder. It'll be a lawsuit. And it'll be public. 3 months passed. Sarah and I were finally able to breathe again. The court order gave us space. Her job had cleared her. Our loan went through. We moved into a small 2-story place just outside of Charleston. Nothing fancy, but it felt safe. It felt ours. But peace didn't last long. One night around 11 p.m., a neighbor texted me. "Hey, is that your mom parked across from your driveway?" I looked out the front window. Sure enough, there was a silver Lexus sitting under the streetlight. Headlights off. No movement. Just sitting there. I called the police. They showed up fast. When they approached the car, it pulled away slow. Like she wanted us to know it was her, but not enough to get caught. The cops filed it under possible order violation, but since she hadn't come on the property or said anything, there wasn't much they could do yet. They made a report. That was it. But something shifted in me that night. I'd had enough. For a while, I'd been reacting, defending, dodging, but I realized something. I'd spent my whole life in response to her chaos. Letting her write the script. Letting her decide what the story would be. Not anymore. I went back to the lawyer. We took every violation, the stalking, the photos, the identity theft, the false guardianship filing, even the church fund abuse. We gathered it all and filed a civil suit. Not for small claims. We went big. Libel. Emotional damages. Invasion of privacy. Identity fraud. Harassment. We wanted damages. We wanted penalties. We wanted it on the record. Then came the subpoena. We served her at her new support group, where she was giving another speech about parental grief. Apparently, the moment she saw the envelope, she screamed, dropped the mic, and locked herself in the church bathroom for 40 minutes. She didn't respond to the suit. Didn't even get a lawyer. By default, the court pushed forward. It was fast. She didn't show judgment in our favor. She owed us $117,000. The court froze her accounts. And here's where it gets messy. Her financial situation wasn't what she made it seem. The Lexus? Leased. The family trust fund she always bragged about? Empty. She was living off credit, church favors, and guilt trips. And now she owed 6 figures in damages, with court enforcement behind it. When they froze her accounts, she snapped. She showed up at my old workplace, somehow thinking I still worked there, barged in crying, screaming, demanding to see her baby. They called security. She got arrested. But not just for trespassing. See, when she screamed at the front desk, she shoved the receptionist. An older woman, early 60s, slipped and cracked her wrist, falling backward. That turned it into assault. She was charged. No more slaps on the wrist. This time, the judge didn't play. She got 3 months in jail and court-mandated psychiatric evaluation. And here's the part one haven't told anyone, not even Sarah. The day she got sentenced, I visited her. She looked so small behind that glass. No makeup. No feathers. Just a pale woman in beige with her hair flattened and gray roots showing. She looked at me like I'd stabbed her in the back. I said, "You hurt me. For years. And you tried to hurt Sarah. I gave you chances. I gave you space. I gave you silence. And you used it all to attack me." She shook her head. "You ruined me." I said, "You ruined yourself." Then she said something that still sits in my gut. "You always needed someone to blame. Now you've got me." I didn't respond. I just stood up and walked out. But she wasn't completely wrong. I spent so long blaming her for everything wrong in my life that I didn't see the patterns I was repeating. I let myself become reactive, bitter, always on edge. I let her shape my fears. I made decisions from a place of anger, not peace. I brought that into my marriage more than I'd like to admit. I treated some of Sarah's calmness like weakness. I ignored red flags in myself. So after everything was done, the judgment, the arrest, the jail, I went to therapy. Not to get fixed, but to learn how to stop living in her shadow. I don't regret suing her. I don't regret the restraining order. I don't regret protecting my wife. But I do regret the years I let her live in my head rent-free. It's quiet now. Sarah and I are expecting our first kid in a few months. We're building a home where peace is the norm, not the prize. And if one day my child asks me about my mother, I'll tell them the truth. Not the gossip version. Not the victim version. The truth. That she tried to control love, and in doing so, lost it completely. And I'll tell them what I learned. No one's coming to save you from your past. But you can build something better from it. Even if it takes breaking everything first.